Hi, I'll now be attempting the first reading worksheet. So first of all, we have note recognition. As we're in treble clef, we have a C, a D, a B flat, and an F sharp. Then in the bass clef, we have an A, a D, an E, and a B. And then onto rhythm recognition, I'll first point out the time values of the notes. First, we have a quarter note, which lasts for one beat, and then we have these two notes with a little bridge between them, which are eighth notes. They each last for half as long as a quarter note, so these two make up one quarter note in time value. So the first bar you would play like this, so bum 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 bum, right? So you can see that the eighth notes sort of both fit into the same beat. And then we have a half note, which is this circle with a little stick pointing down, which lasts for double as long as a quarter note. And then these four beamed eighth notes again. And then the second bar would be like bum, 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 bum. And then in the third bar, or the stuff below, you have a whole note, which counts for four quarter notes. In this case, it fills up the entire bar. So from this point on, I would say we're in common time, because there's always the value of four quarter notes within one bar, but I'll come to time signatures later. And then the last bar is a little more funky. We have 1/8 note and then 2/16 notes in one sort of complex. And so the 16th notes have the time value of half an eighth note. So two of them make up 1/8 note, meaning that this arrangement of three notes has the time value of one quarter note, right? And then, yeah, they're arranged a bit differently. And how you would play this, or how the rhythm of this would be, is bum 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 bum. So yeah, much quicker. Right, and then on to key signatures. We are first in the G major key. So we can see that because if you look at the G major scale, we can see that there's only a sharp on the F and no other of the notes. And this is why the sharp is right here on the high F. And then we have the F major key, where the flat is on the B, or the D minor key, and then an E major key and a C minor key. Right. And if we play this sharp, that's or these sharps or flats that we have right next to the treble clef sort of tell us that every F that we have in this piece will be sharp. It won't, stand next to the note, which sometimes is the key. For example, in the note recognition part, we had the sharp right in front of the note. And then so every F we have in the G major key will be sharp, but it won't be written next to it. So then intervals. An interval is basically just the distance between two tones. So how much higher or lower one tone is compared to the other. First of all, you'd have a fifth because it's G to D. So you'd have your G here and then your D above. And you'd see, okay, so a unison would be G and G again. A second is from G to A. So on the keyboard, just one white note higher. So one to the next, that's a second. And then a third would be the one above, fourth, fifth, and yeah, that's where the D is. That's where we are. Then the next one we have is a D minor third, from D to F. Then we have a major seventh from D to C sharp, and then an augmented fourth, the tritone F to B. Okay, on to chords. First we have a C major and then a D minor chord. And so how you would know if they're major or minor if you didn't have, a keyboard in front of you. So you would build these triads from the scale, right? For example, C from the C major scale The triad is just this root, third, and fifth that make up this chord. So yeah, let's take C major. You have C, E, and G. From C to E, it's 2 steps, right? C, D, E. And then from E to G, it's 1.5 steps, because you have E to F, which is just a half step, and then F to G, which is a whole step. And so this first 2 and then 1.5, that makes up a major chord. And then from the D minor chord, you have D, F, A. From D to F, it's only 1.5 steps, and F to A is 2 steps. So it's sort of the other way around, and that makes a minor chord. Right, so, and the 2 4-note chords we have here are always 7th chords, because you have the normal triads, or so for example, you have this G chord, and then you have this sort of this F added, which is the 7th, respectively to the G. And so you just call this G dominant 7 or just G7. And then we have an E major chord, major 7th chord, so it's E major 7. Right, also a 4-note chord, and right, that is it. Okay, hello, on to the bass worksheet. So we're in the bass clef here, which makes sense, and we now have a time signature. So we're in common time, 4/4. The number on top indicates the number of beats per bar, and the number below is the value of the beat. So 4 would stand for a quarter note. If you'd have an 8, for example, that'd be an 8th note. So you, for example, you'd have the time 6/8 or so. Okay, so I don't have a bass right now, so I can't really demonstrate, but I'll just work through any new symbols that we haven't seen, I guess. So the first bar is pretty simple until we get to this rest symbol. So this is a quarter note rest, which means we sort of pause for the duration of 1 quarter note. And then you have those again. And then after the third rest we have this dotted half note. So this has the time value of 1 half note plus 1 quarter note, or 3 quarter notes, if you will. And then at the end of this second, or at the end of the last bar, we have a half note rest, which is this little line on top of the middle line. And then this bar line that's like 1 thick line and 1 thin line, which just means that this is the end of the entire song. Right, and then the second song we can see here from the 2 sharps right next to the clef that we're in D major key, because the F and C are augmented. And yeah, we could derive this from the scale. So we'd see that the D major scale has no sharps except, on F and C. Yeah, we're in common time again, and we have these dotted notes. This time it's dotted quarter notes, which is the same concept, just that they have the time value of 3/8 notes, or 1 quarter note plus 1/8 note, whichever way you want to see it. And then this bar is pretty normal until we get to the 4th staff, like the 4th line, where we have this tie, so this little bow between the 2 notes. This means that these are played as one, so you have your crochet, so the 8th note, and then this quarter note, and this means that you don't hit the quarter notes, but you just play the 8th note longer, so for the duration of it and the quarter note. So what the difference is between the dotted note here and the ties is that, well, it's sort of about the beats that you have. So in 4/4 time, 1 quarter note would be 1 beat, and it's always 4 quarter notes within 1 bar. And then because you already have 1.5 quarter notes, because of the dotted one, you sort of, the crochet that you have sort of starts later, and the quarter note that you have tied to it is part of a different bar. That's why you can't put the same note, like one note that represents that. Right, and then we know all this until we get to the last symbol, which is an eighth note rest. Again, same concept, just that it's a rest or a pause in the duration of 1/8 note. Yeah, and then we get down and the song ends again with a half note rest. And as I can't play this, I still wanted to somehow show how you would sort of translate these notes onto the bass and where you would play them. And I sort of, drew this little thing where you could see, so this is the beginning of the bass, right? And then if you'd have an F in front of you, you'd play it here or there, and then an A either here or here, for example. Okay, on to drums. I don't have a drum kit again, so I can't really play what the notes say, but the differences are very obvious, so I'll just point them out vocally. So as we're playing percussion, and this is, we don't really have notes that we play, we're in the drum clef or percussion clef, or also called neutral clef, which are these two straight lines, common time again. And so the notes that we see here don't really represent tones, but rather the different drums that we play. So for example, the first one we have here, which would have been in treble clef, a C, are the snare drum. And then the one above, which would have been an E in treble clef, is the high tom. Then the low tom on the treble clef A note, and the bass drum on the treble clef F note. And then what we also have are these ghost notes on top, and they represent the hi-hat. And we have one crash cymbal, which is in the very last bar, the first note, which looks very similar to the hi-hat, but is a bit different. Okay, and then on to these letters that we have below the staffs here. So the M, F, and then F. They indicate how loud we play. So for example, we have this MF symbol, which means mezzo forte, which means moderately loud, so normal. And then we have forte, which is just the F below that, which is a bit louder than mezzo forte. Then down to mezzo forte again, up to forte again, and then right at the end we come to fortissimo, this FF, which is very loud, so a bit louder even than forte. And in most popular music, fortissimo would have been the loudest that we'd get. Right. What's also new is we have a triplet right in the second bar, under these 3/8 notes. So what this tells us is that although we have 3/8 notes, they only have the time value of 1 quarter note instead of 1.5 quarter notes. Or they have only the time value of 2/8 notes. And so also in the third staff, what we see above the hi-hat notes, on one of them there's this little circle. This means it's an open note, or in percussion, this would mean you open the hi-hat for this one note, and then the plus right after that indicates that you close the hi-hat again. Right. And then also you have right after that the little 8th note rest, but you could see it's not centered in the staff, but it's sort of like down below, and this means that the hi-hat is not affected by the rest. So the rest only concerns sort of the low tom and bass drum. Right, and then we have an accent here, which means that this particular note is played a bit louder than the other ones. So the crash cymbal is played a bit louder than the other ones, than the hi-hat notes. And then we have this sign right at the end that sort of looks like the accent, but it's way bigger and facing in the other direction. And this is the crescendo, which means that there's a gradual increase in volume to the ending of the piece. So you sort of get louder and louder towards the end, which also, you know, you can see from it being forte and then fortissimo, and then you get the crescendo, which makes it even louder towards the end. Okay, hello. I'll now be attempting the guitar part of the reading worksheet. Right, so in the first staff, we just have these really high notes, so I would say I'd play all of these on the high E string. I hope this is loud enough. Right, so I'll just play along the first part. Sorry, again. Yeah, and that should be the first pretty simple melody. And then we have some new signs here that we only have in guitar in the second one. So this is a chord chart notation, meaning that we only play chords, and for example, the first symbol, that little box we have, just says that we strum for one whole note, so it has the time value of one whole note. These two first, and then in the third bar we have quarter note valued stroke signs, and then above that we have the chords that we play. Okay, so how you would play this would be as follows. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so this was the rhythm / notation. And then, okay, we have this melody part again here, and then when it says play chords, that's rhythm notation again, and then the very last staff is just / notation for the part that's repeated. And so / notation is a bit different because it doesn't give you any rhythm, and the player sort of has to interpret like the voicing of the chords themselves. So I won't be attempting to play the middle part, but I wrote it down as a tab. Right, but then the chords below, so again, the chords are written on top of the staff, and then we play along to the rhythm that's indicated. And we know we have to strum the chords because there's these / signs. So first we have E flat, which I would play like this. So then you're on to C minor 7, which should be this. Oh, sorry. And then I guess you don't hit the chords like this. You just pause. And then you're on to B flat 7, which should be this. So you have, yeah, your dotted half note there on the first B flat 7 you play, which is, yeah, a dotted half note notated in / notation, in rhythm / notation. And then the last bar that you have on this line is an A flat, which I believe is this chord, and you have your accents again. So I would play the first and the fourth A flats a bit louder than the others. So I'd have, yeah, even if this, right, so yeah, you have your 4 8th notes, a pause, and then 2 8th notes. Right, again, yeah, these are the 8th notes with the beams, and the other ones with just a line are quarter note, makes sense. And then the very last bar you have / notation, and what's also different is that you have your repeat signs, so these little lines with the bar lines with dots. And so how you play this is just play the first 4 bars, and then you get down to the first dotted lines, just play past those until you reach the second dotted line, dotted bar line. And then you would, when you've reached the fourth bar on the last staff, you would just jump right back to the first dots and then play the 3 bars again, and then you reach this sort of the little box with the 1 inside. So you would just skip the last bar and yeah, jump right to the where the 2 sort of starts, and you play that last bar of E flat, the whole note of E flat again. Yeah, and then that's the end of the song. Okay, on to the last part, which is vocals. So we'd have the melody first. So we'd have just the normal from C to G and down again. So we'd have la 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 la. And then the second part is rhythm. So I'll just do this to a metronome, which is already adjusted to 80 beats per minute, which we'll need later, as indicated. Right, so we have bum 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 bum. Okay, and then we have a melody again. What is love? So many people ask. Why do the birds sing? I don't know. Okay, and then on to the last rhythm section. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.